Hello there, friends and neighbors. You're listening to Inside the Man Cave on the Movie Squad YouTube channel. This is our second episode. I'm Joey DeAngelis with Daniel Feehan and Andrew Gifford.
Oh, you got it right this time, Joey.
Yes,
wow.
I got it right.
You know my name.
I know.
It's a happy day.
It's like I've known you for 2 years or something.
Right? And I feel like I barely know myself because you never...
I never acknowledge the real you.
Yes, thank you, Joey. And now I feel accepted.
The friendship grows stronger every day.
Now, just a brief background on all of us. We're just a couple guys from Jersey who like to talk about some nerdy things, and we do it in my mom's basement. Perfect atmosphere for this kind of show.
In close proximity to a man cave of our good friend Joey.
Yes, it is. We are not inside the man cave. We are, in fact, just outside the man cave.
But inside the man cave sounds so much cooler.
We just lost half our subscribers.
We had to be honest. We do have an exciting program today. We're not going to be reacting to just a single thing. We have a whole slew of topics to discuss, but quickly, I know, Feehan, you haven't seen either one of these movies. But Gifford and I have seen both Moana and Fantastic Beasts and Where to Find Them. So we can just quickly talk about that.
We'll give you a little rundown. Try to get you out to the theater to see these, because they're really good.
Well, technically, I have seen Fantastic Beasts and Where to Find Them in the Lego Dimensions story pack, because that is my big thing, is Lego Dimensions with you guys. And that's pretty much how I saw the Ghostbusters 2016 as well, is just in Lego version. Which,
well, I can't fault you with as far as Ghostbusters.
Yeah.
But Fantastic Beasts is a really good movie, and you're missing out. So please go see it.
I will try to.
We're speaking as people who are not the biggest Harry Potter fans either. I had a good time with it. I was surprised how much I liked Eddie Redmayne, and the rest of the cast was very, very good. So, I mean, it's another film in the Wizarding world, and we're gonna get 4 more of these. So we'll see how the rest of it goes.
Yeah, it's an enjoyable little film that helps set up, future plots, big important plots that are going to come up in more Harry Potter films down the line. The characters are all really memorable, all really likable. I love Eddie Redmayne as Newt Scamander. He's the best. And then the creatures.
Yes, the creatures are a lot of fun in this film. Niffler, yeah.
Niffler's my favorite.
I like that there's like a yo-yo like flying thing that was really cool. I don't remember the name of it, but it was cool.
Yeah.
I think it was called the Swooping Evil.
Swooping Evil or something like that.
It was something like that. Yeah, you're right.
So let's talk about Moana for a bit. The latest Disney Animation Studios film. We had Zootopia earlier this year, and now we have Moana, which features The Rock.
Oh,
Dwayne Johnson.
Dwayne Johnson as Maui.
This was a really fun movie. It was nice to have like Disney animated musical since Frozen.
Yeah, this
3
is
years.
a really feel-good movie. Like, I left the theater really happy with it because Moana's a strong female character.
Yes.
And, she doesn't have a love interest. She's her own character.
And she stands up very well opposite Dwayne Johnson.
She does.
That was my biggest concern with this movie, but she does just fine on her own.
Dwayne Johnson doesn't overshadow her.
No. And the music by Lin-Manuel Miranda and other folks, it's great.
It is.
I think. A lot of personality.
Dwayne Johnson's musical number is my personal favorite.
Yeah, the song You're Welcome. Moana's a lot of fun, guys.
Yeah, check it out.
So Feehan can talk about
Yay!
the Alien Covenant poster.
Yes.
Was just revealed.
Dude, that poster, I love how simplistic it is. It's like the original Alien poster.
It's beautiful. It's truly a thing of beauty. I mean, the original Alien, it truly was probably one of the great horror movies of its time, in that it took what many people could think of as the most basic title ever, just Alien, and make it so that no other film could even come close.
Well, I like, too, because, like, the tagline of the original Alien is, like, well, in space, no one can hear you. Here, it's just run.
Well, it was in space, no one can hear you scream, which is one of the best captions ever.
Very chilling, and almost like with the advertising of the original Alien, I'd say is even better than the actual movie. Yeah. Especially that trailer from the original Alien.
I love that trailer.
The siren going off, and just the way that was put together is absolutely amazing. Honestly, I think if you want a better version of Alien, just watch John Carpenter's The Thing.
Yeah, I mean, here's the thing. I appreciate the original Alien for its set design, for its atmosphere, for obviously bringing us one of the most iconic female heroines in cinema history with Ellen Ripley.
Yes.
But obviously, I think it's been overshadowed by, of course, James Cameron's Aliens, which basically has perfected the science fiction action genre for years to come. I mean, you can look at its inspirations everywhere, from Halo to basically every single like sci-fi action movie for years to come.
Right.
And the biggest problem with, of course, the last Alien movie, technically Alien movie Prometheus, was, obviously it was a novel of Ridley Scott, who hadn't been in the sci-fi genre for quite some time, until, of course, The Martian. But it was novel of him to make a movie that takes place in the Alien universe, but doesn't focus on the xenomorphs.
Something I love about the new Alien Covenant poster, though, is that you see the alien. And after Prometheus, I think it's nice to feel like you're back with the aliens.
I mean, I honestly didn't find Prometheus that great. I mean, honestly, Michael Fassbender was the best part of that movie.
He was.
As the android.
I really like
I'm
the
happy
design.
he's coming back.
Thank goodness.
And he's playing 2 androids this time around, which will be interesting.
Ooh.
I mean, honestly, like, I love the Alien franchise, of course. Aliens, Predator, all that kind of stuff. One thing I would love to see from this franchise, there was a comic book, I think it was made by Dark Horse, where it was like an android, but it was an android that looked like a xenomorph.
Oh.
And like it was sort of like a spy. It would go in and observe aliens, but it smoked cigarettes. It could use guns. It talked like a regular human. It was really something crazy, and I think that would be really interesting to see.
That'd be certainly something to see in a movie. I mean, this is a great poster, but we'll obviously have to see the final product.
Yeah, and this is a teaser poster, so I'm curious what the official poster will be.
I'm glad they're also going back to the normal H.R. Geiger design, because what was called the Deacon alien in Prometheus looked a little silly, to be honest.
That's what this poster does for me, is it feels very traditional.
It is very, gives you a traditional look at the xenomorph. Moving on from there, we have John Cleese possibly being in the DCEU. Gifford, about the situation. Now,
it's interesting.
Now, explain to me what is going on with John Cleese and Zack Snyder stuff.
Enlighten us, Andrew.
Okay, so before, like with Rick Famuyiwa, before it was announced he was directing The Flash, Twitter was where people kind of caught wind that, like, he started following Jeff Johns and Jeff Johns was following him back. So Twitter's on this source of information as far as like who's involved in DCEU movies.
Yeah.
About almost a week ago, John Cleese was, Clay Enos, like the director of photography for these movies.
Yeah.
He started following John Cleese out of the blue, which got some people wondering. And then a couple days ago, John Cleese starts following Ben Affleck and Zack Snyder. Now that's kind of suspect,
Right.
Because, but now that's making everyone wonder, like, is John Cleese in the DCEU and is he in Justice League? Maybe playing a character to kind of lead into the Batman solo.
John Cleese as Darkseid.
John Cleese as the ventriloquist. Plot twist, Jeremy Irons is out. John Cleese is Alfred.
They replaced one of the things that people consistently liked with Batman v Superman.
Now it's John Cleese.
Now it's John Cleese, which I wouldn't be opposed to. I do like John Cleese quite a bit.
It would just be weird because then Jeremy Irons was very much more like the badass
action Alfred.
Yeah, and then John Cleese would be like, classic action Alfred.
I could see him as like almost like the Ephraim Zimbalist Jr. Alfred from like the cartoons. Mm-hmm. More like that with some of the comedic stuff. It's interesting, like some of the casting choices they've gotten. I mean, they got Kieran Hines as Steppenwolf in Justice League. Now we got John Cleese. Feehan, you were going to say something?
Yeah, and J.K. Simmons as Commissioner Gordon. Crazy to think about.
Good casting.
I do wonder because sometimes we hear an actor has been cast in these movies and we start to speculate that, they're going to play a character from the comics. But what if John Cleese is just like a senator, like Holly Hunter? Because I remember some people were starting to speculate that, maybe she's someone from the comic books.
It's you just tend to speculate a lot when it comes to these kind of things.
I mean, that's part of the fun of it.
But John Cleese in DCEU, I guess, it's interesting casting. Mm-hmm. We'll see what happens. Now, this is kind of a little on the older side of news, but I wanted to talk about it regardless. For a while now, the Inhumans movie was kind of in limbo. It was announced by Marvel, 2 years ago?
Yeah, 2 years ago.
Wow.
Announced by Marvel 2 years ago. Then they shift the date, and then they removed it off of their release schedule. Mm-hmm. And we've been kind of hearing back and forth whether or not it's going to be a thing. And now we find out that Inhumans as a regular Marvel Cinematic Universe movie is pretty much dead.
It's pretty much dead. Marvel Studios and Marvel TV are kind of disconnected. They don't really work together, unfortunately. But it is nice to know Inhumans is still in-house.
Yes,
so.
Inhumans is still in-house. It's going to be an 8-episode series on ABC. With the first 2 episodes, we'll get a limited 2-week engagement in IMAX.
Yeah, you're still getting your Inhumans movie, quote-unquote.
But it's going to be basically like the first 2 episodes of the show, basically the pilot.
And the whole series is going to be filmed in IMAX, which is going to be really neat, because there's going to be some moon fight sequences.
Yeah. It just sounds really amazing. I was very mixed on the news when I first heard it.
Well, you're like the biggest Inhumans fan.
You see, out of the few people I know, I do enjoy the Inhumans, particularly Karnak. I just think he's a great character, and I've been reading his comic run, and it's been really good so far. And with Inhumans, it was kind of like I wanted a big budget movie, but at the same time,
TV is not necessarily the ideal place for it.
But at the same time, I think it is, because it's almost
you get more time.
To flesh them out, and I think an 8-episode, almost mini-series would be perfect.
You also have to consider Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. has already introduced the Inhumans.
Yeah.
So at this point, it's to do a movie that's completely unrelated to Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. might be a little weird.
Yeah, it is a little weird, but they had to address the Inhumans, the royal family in the Inhumans in a large way, because they've been promoting the hell out of them in the comics.
Yeah.
It's been the big push for the last year or 2 years or so, that Inhumans getting 2 or 3 books. We're gonna get a Black Bolt comic next year.
Yeah.
So they had to have the royal family in this at some point, whether it was going to be a movie or like I said, basically what it looks to be an 8-episode miniseries. My only concern is ABC.
I understand that, but I think they know what they're getting themselves into with this. This can't be your typical ABC show.
Yeah.
Feehan, your thoughts?
I don't really have too many thoughts. Inhumans wasn't really something I read a ton of. I honestly know it from a lot of, obviously, Marvel cartoon shows. They always like to throw in at least one Inhumans cartoon, and it always turns out to be the same villain every single time.
Now, Feehan, you can't possibly mean Maximus the Mad.
Now, why would he be the bad guy?
Maximus
Look at him.
the Mad is
he's
the
Black
only
Bolt's
villain
brother. It's okay.
It'll be interesting to see who they get for this, because I remember for the longest time, everybody wanted Vin Diesel.
Well, they were really teasing Vin Diesel. Vin Diesel himself was teasing.
Yeah,
I guarantee you he was at least in talks. Mm-hmm. And now, the deal's fallen through, obviously, because of this. Because Vin Diesel's not going to do a TV show, guys.
Inhumans, I'm cautiously optimistic, so we'll see about that.
I'm hoping it's very Game of Thrones style.
If you guys haven't read it, I would highly recommend reading the Inhumans run by Paul Jenkins and Jay Lee. That is probably the storyline I could see them tackling as an Inhumans series. Let's get on to Cars 3 teaser.
Oh boy.
This was
This
was a weird one of those strangest teasers I've seen for just about anything, especially given the family-friendly nature of these films.
If Disney and Pixar actually kept the marketing this bizarre throughout until the movie comes out, they might actually make bank. Because this is actually going to get people's attention.
It's just crazy to think about. I mean, Cars is one of those franchises that Pixar has that I've never been a big fan of. I mean, the original Cars was it was okay, but it was definitely one of Pixar's lowest points. Cars 2 is very much a waste of time, to be honest. Some people like it, but I mean, it's just car puns and spy jokes and all that, and focusing on probably one of the dumbest characters the Pixar's ever had.
Cars' target audience is kids, and some Pixar movies, they're family friendly. You can touch on serious issues with them, but Cars is mostly, just for kids.
It's very very
and
kid
the
friendly.
merchandise is huge. And it's not just the toy sales, it's that this is John Lasseter's baby apparently. That's another reason why they keep putting these out, because the Cars movies mean a lot to him.
Yeah, I mean, he got the inspiration for it. I remember watching a Pixar documentary. He got it basically by going on a road trip with his family after all the success with Pixar, and he just got inspiration from just that road trip.
And I think also we have to realize too that there is a Cars Land in Disney California Adventure,
Which I've heard from people who's been on it. That's the best thing to come out of Cars.
Yeah, so it makes sense to kind of promote them, make a movie, and you kind of hey, you have a Cars Land too, so kind of all this inside promotion. But this was a weird teaser though, because people made memes like the Zack Snyder Cars movie.
This is actually indicative of the tone of the movie. I don't think so. I think this is more just to get us interested.
It gets our attention.
Well,
at the
I
very
think what
least.
they did great here is it sets a much darker tone, and you don't see their faces, so it feels a lot more realistic. Is the thing. They don't feel like cartoon cars.
Yeah, that's true.
And then when Lightning McQueen crashes, the breathing makes it creepier. Just you just he sounds like Darth Vader.
Yeah. Reminds me of the scene in the first Cars where Doc explains, Doc Hudson explains how the companies quit on him, they kicked him out after his big crash. It's just wow, is something like this going to happen to Lightning? Everyone's just going to abandon him after he has a massive crash. It's kind of scary to think. I think if this movie keeps that tone, how are they going to advertise this as a Disneyland attraction? Kids are going to be scared to death riding Cars Land.
I think that Cars 3 is still going to have a lot of that same Cars humor. I don't think it's going to be breaking the mold too much, but at the very least, they could try to make it a good movie.
Because I think Pixar is fully aware at this point that Cars is definitely one of the weaker IPs that they have.
They can at least try to take this more seriously is the thing.
Yes.
Well, I mean, with actually one thing that's funny is obviously it's not just cars now; they have planes. The first plane movie got kind of mixed results. I mean, it's mostly negative responses.
Mostly negative, but
then the sequel to Planes: Fire and Rescue got actually a lot of critical praise for being actually intense and suspenseful. And I'm thinking, is Pixar taking notice of how if you put these characters in these seemingly life-threatening situations, it grounds it a bit, not to a halt, but just in the matter of you feel like these characters could potentially die.
One of my problems with the Cars movies up to this point has been that none of the stories of both Cars 1 and 2, you don't need them to be cars. In Bug's Life, it relies on them being bugs. Here, it's they're just cars for no reason.
Yeah.
With Cars 3, with him crashing out, you might actually start to feel okay, there's a point to this.
Yeah, I mean, it's funny, if you're totally right about it, if you took out the cars, it would be, some of the scenes actually would be a little bit darker. I mean, I remember in the first Cars, they have a scene where they throw a spy car into a trash compactor.
Yeah.
But because it's a car, it's it's not that threatening, but if there was a person in there, it'd be terrifying. I don't know. I just feel Pixar knows what they're doing, especially now that Disney has really stepped up its game with its 3D animation.
You know what's really funny though is that I remember years ago, everyone used to be the opposite, where Pixar was the best thing Disney had.
Exactly.
Oh, yeah.
Now Pixar, out of the major things Disney controls, it's kind of one of the weakest ones right now.
Yeah.
But you look at Disney Animation Studios and the great work they're putting out. Okay, I know not all of us like Frozen here, but Frozen's a big thing. Frozen's a big deal. A lot of people like Frozen. You have the Big Hero 6, Moana, and Zootopia, which made $1 billion. And a lot of those are great movies.
The last truly great Pixar movie probably was Toy Story 3.
Oh yeah.
Inside Out, people love that movie, but has it really become as relevant
It's
as
maybe
people would have hoped?
It's
it
not
would
as relevant, but I think it's certainly one of their. It's one of their smarter movies, and it makes me think of the period in the mid 2000s where Pixar was amazing, where they have Finding Nemo, or The Incredibles, Ratatouille, Up, and WALL-E, like
Yeah.
those I'd say, we could bring in Toy Story as well, of course, but I think those are some of their best work right there.
I mean, to think, there was a time, I remember years ago, Disney's first 3D animated movie, Chicken Little. I mean, that was considered like one of their worst films, and they were just thinking, many people were just like, man, Disney's just trying to ape on Pixar's success, but nobody would have expected a time where Disney is actually making the sort of better CG animated movies than even Pixar.
And who's partly responsible for that is John Lasseter.
Yeah,
because
I was about to say, because John Lasseter kind of left Pixar.
He's now the head of Disney Animation Studios.
And notice that's when things started to kind of take a turn for Pixar.
Because now I'm also noticing too that out of all of the Pixar's next couple of releases, they only have one film that's not a sequel, and that's Coco.
Yes.
Cars 3, we'll see what happens. We'll see more promotional materials, and I'm sure we'll see it at some point. And you might see a review it on this channel in the future. I want to get to Justice League Dark trailer.
Yep.
The latest of the DC animated movies that they put out. They're usually direct to DVD, and I want to say that they're mixed in quality sometimes. I think it's safe to say.
Yeah, indeed. I feel like the best ones out of them are the ones that do go into more of the characterization, because the problem is, for the longest time, DC animated movies were like neck and neck with Marvel animated direct-to-DVD movies. Stuff like Justice League New Frontier and all that. Superman Doomsday. They just made a lot of great animated movies. Superman versus the Elite. Honestly, definitely the movie to watch if you have someone who's like, man, I don't like Superman. He's not a great hero.
That's the best Superman movie, I think.
But then Marvel pretty much threw up the flag, gave in the towel and just decided, yeah, we're not going to do that anymore. And DC started to rule the roost. And, they started to do what they called their sort of reboot universe, adapted from the New 52. And, they had their own Justice League. They had Batman. And pretty much just those two. They did Justice League movies and they did Batman movies. And that's where the major problem lied, was the fact that they had just these two, and that was it. I mean, once in a while they put out a different movie, but and especially now that we have the DC Rebirth, where they're basically taking all the stuff from New 52 and making it better, adding stuff that was taken away in New 52. It's like, what's the purpose anymore? And I like the idea of a shared universe, but it seems like DC's finally learning to make movies about the Justice League or about Batman. There were rumors for a time that we're getting Batman Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, like a crossover between those two.
But now let's talk about Justice League Dark, though.
Yes.
Just kind of go back into
of course.
That. It features Batman prominently.
Very prominently.
Very prominently. But, Gifford, you noticed something, particularly about Constantine in this trailer.
Oh, yeah. Matt Ryan, the actor who plays Constantine in the canceled TV show that was on NBC, he voices Constantine here, which is awesome. It's great to see that kind of fan service paid.
Of course, I will always remember him as Edward James Kenway from Assassin's Creed 4. And it's so weird to hear him play Constantine and hear him just talking, and I'm like, wow, this guy looks exactly like Edward Kenway.
Well, it's been fun with Matt Ryan because since the show's ended, he has come back as Constantine for the CW shows,
which is great.
Yeah, he appeared on Arrow, which was a lot of fun, and I want to see him come back.
I would like to see him
maybe in Legends of Tomorrow.
I would like to see him in The Flash, to be honest, because that's pretty much the only CW show I watch.
The Flash taking on the paranormal.
It would be very, very interesting.
That would be very cool.
Yeah, look, I'll see how it is, because again, a lot of these DC animated movies I'm very mixed on, and especially if it's taking place in this new this new quote unquote New 52 universe. But it seems like an interesting enough concept.
Yeah, based on this trailer, it's kind of a mixed bag for me, because on the one hand, it's cool to see Justice League Dark actually get a movie.
Yeah.
It was cool to see Constantine and Etrigan and Deadman and
Swamp Thing and Satana.
See them get their due. But then I don't like how they're shoving the Justice League in and Batman so prominently.
The way I look at it too,
it's smart business.
It's how you get DVDs sold off of shelves. True. Because Batman is, such a recognizable character, and the Justice League, they're brand names people recognize. So having having them in this trailer, helps maybe for people who maybe are not as familiar with the Justice League Dark characters, because I'm not 100% familiar with them either.
No.
It just makes sense, I guess. It's unfortunate, but it is what it is. I don't have much to say about it. It's We'll wait and see. I am personally waiting for Batman: Return of the Caped Crusaders 2.
Absolutely.
William Shatner as Two-Face.
That's gonna be a lot of.
The thing I'm most looking forward to is a preview of Teen Titans: The Judas Contract. To be honest, I mean, Justice League versus Teen Titans was honestly pretty good. If only they just didn't shove the whole Justice League in there, even though it was such a small roster and the fight lasted for a good 5 seconds and the Teen Titans lost like spectacularly. And I'm just excited for that, because the Judas Contract is one of the best Teen Titans stories ever told.
We're gonna try to have like a weekly topic where we talk about. Feehan brought this one up. What non-superhero movie or franchise should be rebooted? This was brought up by Feehan. We're going to try to have one of these once a week. And if you guys want to suggest topics for us to discuss, just let us know in the comments section below.
This is a lot of fun for us as well as you guys. So I really want to. I really want to do this.
So
whoever wins, we all win.
I guess you guys have. I didn't come into this with an idea, so
I'm Feehan, you should go first, because I'm kind of still debating.
We're so not prepared.
Oh, shame on you. I've thought about this for hours. Honestly, like at first I had an honorable mention to give, because I was watching a clip from a movie and I hadn't watched it in years. Obviously, you guys probably remember Night at the Museum.
Yes.
Oh yeah.
The Ben Stiller comedy from the early 2000s. Still a pretty decent family film, but I just thought to my head, like, what would it be like if this was actually more grounded? Like you're stuck in a museum with prehistoric animal skeletons and wax figures of some of history's greatest killers. You're never going to make a movie like that. There was that Jon Favreau lost Disney movie, Magic Kingdoms, which was going to be sort of Night at the Museum, except at Disney parks.
Yeah.
Which would have been really interesting to see, like, the Pirates of the Caribbean come out and the Haunted Mansion ghosts and stuff.
Right.
But, all right, so my choice for franchise I'd like to see rebooted, I started going through all of the franchises I know. Obviously, we have the Alien Covenant poster coming out, so that's coming out.
Right.
And then we have the rumors of Shane Black directing a new Predator movie. And I'm thinking to myself, Alien, Predator, Alien versus Predator.
Ooh.
A franchise that, quite frankly, I'm surprised hasn't gotten a good movie so far. The first Alien vs. Predator was okay. I still like it. Decent set design, good models. But obviously neutered by a PG-13 rating.
Yeah.
To appeal to a wider audience. And then the second one was just an abysmal piece of garbage that took two of the best monsters in cinema history and put them into a generic slasher movie with stereotype cookie-cutter characters. So I'm thinking to myself, it feels like the perfect time for this, because obviously with Deadpool, another Fox property, R-rated movies have been shown to be successful, and Logan is obviously going to kind of show that as well. So R-rated movies, and then also the idea of shared universes are obviously a lot bigger with the MCU and the DCEU and the Legendary Monsters universe.
And you know what? R-rated movies, like properties, are becoming a lot more lucrative for these studios, which is great because of Deadpool and Ted.
Exactly. Ted. Let's not mention Ted.
Okay.
Ted or A Million Ways to Die in the West or any Seth MacFarlane
Ted
stuff,
is dead
really.
to Feehan.
Ted
is dead.
Regardless, Alien vs. Predator, if you're going to do it, try to focus more on practical effects. I mean, you're never going to make a Predator better than just a big guy in a giant alien suit.
Right.
And Xenomorphs, you could have CG, but just make it feel realistic. Mm-hmm. And also, no modern day. No modern day, no Earth, have it in space, on a colony. You can have anything you want with this franchise. There's been tons of comic books and video games. Actually, the Aliens vs. Predator game on Xbox 360 is actually really good. I mean, you get to play as an alien, predator, and a marine, and it's sort of 3 parts of a whole story, and I always like that. It's obviously you could do a little bit better in an actual movie, but I mean, that's my main thought is Alien versus Predator.
Gifford, do you have any?
I do.
Oh,
actually.
you do? Oh, great. Because I was.
Do you have one
I
yet,
do have
or?
one as well.
Okay.
I'll
Yes,
let you go first.
I got the creative juices flowing.
You
Thank
did.
you, Feehan. That actually sounds interesting.
Yeah, I like
you.
what you were saying. So I'm thinking when you reboot something, I think it's important to pay respect to what's come before. I think legacy is a big part of these like iconic movie franchises. I don't know how you'll feel about this, Joey, because you're a huge fan of this series.
Oh boy.
Yeah. But okay, Indiana Jones 5 is coming soon with Harrison Ford.
Yes.
Now it'll be nice. I think that should be his send-off. After that, I think they should reboot Indiana Jones. Let him become almost a James Bond-esque character, where you can tell stories with him spanning, different eras. Maybe you could have different stories, like with different actors playing him.
Yeah,
That could work.
That could be interesting. It could be something a lot different.
I mean, you can't really escape the original films in their 30s, early 20s, setting.
I could get behind a Indiana Jones reboot simply because to do it with Harrison Ford, to continue doing it with Harrison Ford, I'm sorry, guys, he's old. He can't keep doing these movies forever.
Yeah.
And the other thing is,
The only way you can continue Indiana Jones at this point would be to have, introduce a new character and then have a spin-off.
You see, I'd rather
I don't
just
like that idea.
Yeah,
personally.
I'm with you.
I mean, if you get the right actor who has that good mixture of charm and badassness, I feel like you could feasibly have it. I mean, there are tons of actors working today who, they have the build, they have the swagger, they have the jokes. Indiana Jones is always a cool character, but the best thing about him is he feels real.
Yeah.
When he gets punched, you really feel like this guy has gotten punched. But unfortunately, much like another great hero, John McClane, he's over the films he's turned into a Superman.
Yeah, I think with Indiana Jones, to reboot it, you'd have to win some people over, but I think people could accept it.
I think,
If you get the right actor, you pay respect, you don't change things too much.
The other thing with an Indiana Jones reboot is that you have to realize with Harrison Ford continuing these things, you can't keep having them set in the 30s or 40s.
Especially not.
Yeah, and Feehan, that's what I was kind of saying is with these new ones, you could feasibly, depending on how you handle it, you could have different stories set in different time periods.
I mean, to be honest, Kingdom of the Crystal Skull kind of swept the rug under something that, honestly, I feel like would have been a much better movie if, screw the aliens. Let's not have aliens. Just have it be about Indiana Jones fighting communists. Mm-hmm. I mean, and the whole, make it sort of like a spy spy type thriller where Indiana Jones is constantly on the run from the FBI who feel like he's a communist, but he knows that they're actually communists themselves. I mean, they hinted at that at Kingdom of the Crystal Skull, and it never really happened. We just went another generic CGI adventure.
And I guess going forward, I think it's important that for future generations of kids that you keep Indiana Jones relevant. You keep bringing him back into the pop culture consciousness. Because sometimes if you reboot a franchise, that brings awareness back to the original films.
Right.
And I think there's so many different stories you could tell with Indiana Jones. I think it would be kind of a missed opportunity to tell, a lot of the different stories you could with him. And just because Harrison Ford's getting older, I don't think you should rob people of getting to see some of those stories told.
I agree, and also because Indiana Jones might not be as big as Star Wars, but it's a franchise, and at some point you gotta address that elephant in the room, and I think rebooting it would probably be the best.
Yeah, let them
option.
go out on a high note with Indiana Jones 5, but then maybe reboot it a few years later or something.
Yeah. So, I guess I'm gonna go into my thing. My thing is kind of a it's kind of a general thing. More so than just a single franchise. I was thinking about Tarzan because I've been watching the Tarzan movies, and the new one was terrible.
Yeah,
it is really boring.
Oh, Joey, you don't want Legend of Tarzan 2?
No, I do not want Legend of
He was
Tarzan.
no.
2.
He was about to go into a possible situation, but he's like, nope.
I nearly jumped over this table, but I did not. I am better than that. I'm better than you, David Yates.
Whoever you are.
You director of Harry Potter movies.
If you're listening right now.
Which you're not.
You only gave us a movie we liked in Fantastic Beasts, but we hate you because of
Tarzan. And that's a bigger sin. So there's Tarzan. I'd like to see a reboot of Tarzan because I was actually watching Greystoke, the Legend of Tarzan movie that was released in the 80s that actually has a lot of, Legend of Tarzan, the new one, has a lot of similarities to it. and it takes a lot of like similar ideas. And I'm thinking an Tarzan movie could work like a reboot. But I was also thinking of another Edgar Rice Burroughs property that was made in the last couple of years that was not received very well, but actually I think is a pretty good movie.
This is a great choice.
I think it's Howard the... No, I'm kidding. Not Howard the No, it is John Carter, John Carter of Mars. One of the biggest box office disasters of all time. But I look at John Carter and I think about all the space movies we're getting now, not even counting Star Wars.
They're all inspired by John Carter in some way.
They're all inspired by John Carter in some way. Plus, I feel like that movie was just really unfocused. It had a lot of ideas and a lot of jumping back and forth. And I like the movie a lot.
The movie's fine. I don't think it deserved to flop.
It didn't. It's just they spent $250 million on something that probably should have been like $150 million. If it was like $150 million movie.
Now, Andrew Stanton directed it, didn't he?
He did direct it.
And that was a shame to see that happen to him. Yeah,
especially when you look at other animation directors who moved into live action, like Brad Bird had huge success with Mission Impossible.
Yeah.
I think you could, especially with the special effects teams that Disney has now. When you look at like the Jungle Book and you look at like the creatures in that. And I was also, what else made me think of a John Carter reboot? That Valerian trailer.
That looks really interesting.
Which is based off the graphic novel Cara Delevingne and Dane DeHaan. Visually, it's pretty
stunning,
huge. Like I was looking at this and I'm like, this is insane for like. I mean, again, it's based off a graphic novel, but like most people probably have never heard of that. And I'm looking at this, I'm like, this is a big like space movie, considering it's not like A-list star in space or Star Wars, you know.
John Carter, dude, is one of those like things that I want to see more attention brought to, because more people should know about it.
And there are several books. I actually have a collection of John Carter books. Like it was like a big one of those big Barnes and Noble editions. The beautiful cover. There's like 5 or 6 books in that, and there's like several books on the.
Do you know who was developing it originally before they brought in Brad Bird or Andrew Stanton? My bad. They had Jon Favreau.
That's who I would get to do the reboot.
Well, Jon Favreau really wanted to make this a trilogy.
Yeah.
This was gonna do before Iron Man.
Yeah, I would. Again, that's. I'm thinking like back to like Jon Favreau's films. Like he's had some misfires like Iron Man 2 or Cowboys and Aliens.
You know what? His version of John Carter, I think, would have been a lot more focused. It would have had humor, but done at the right time.
And I also think Jon Favreau's very good at getting big actors into his things. He has kind of has like a.
So who would Scarlett Johansson and Robert Downey Jr. play in John Carter?
That's a very very good question. I could see Scarlett Johansson being like a Martian princess or something. Or even an alien, because her voice has a very nice quality to her voice.
Maybe she could be the love interest.
Or get Ben Kingsley to play the villain or something.
Oh, dude, yes.
And maybe get like a young guy to play John Carter.
Get an unknown.
Again, that was my main idea I wanted to bring up was John Carter. Honorable mention Zorro, because we need a new Zorro movie.
Typical.
Yeah, we do need a Zorro movie. We need a Pulp Heroes movie.
You see, that was going to be my general idea. Was just we need some pulpy heroes, because Indiana Jones. We talk about Indiana Jones a little bit.
We need a shared universe where like there are Tarzan and John Carter, Zorro, the Shadow, the Phantom. They all share the same universe and they all come together to battle like the aliens from John Carter.
You see, I was gonna write like a script for that. I was actually gonna have. And it would not have made any sense. It would have been.
It would have just been stupid.
It would have been glorious.
It would have been glorious. Yeah. Zorro, Robin Hood, Tarzan, Flash Gordon, and Doc Savage.
You know what would be amazing? Get Sam Jones out of retirement.
Well, I mean, we're
Flash.
Oh! Wow. I was just going to say, we live in such a golden age of comics. Crossovers are plenty in this. Joey, you're reading Tarzan on the Planet of the Apes. I just purchased Judge Dredd versus Alien versus Predator.
I'm currently not reading anything.
Yeah, but we have that. You got Green Hornet meets the Lone Ranger. You know, just
And you know what? In my man cave, I have Django Zorro.
yes, and
That was a thing.
and
Now that
Future
you-
Quest.
Yeah,
And
now that
Future
you
Quest.
bring up Green Hornet versus Lone Ranger,
Everything's
the Lone
versus
Ranger.
with you.
Lone Ranger deserves a reboot as well.
It deserves
Yeah.
Throwing
redemption.
that out there. I'm happy the Green Hornet is actually getting a reboot though, and it's going to be
Thank
serious, directed by the guy who did the Accountant and Warrior.
I forget who that was, but I did not like The Accountant very much.
No, oh.
No, I think that was it's going off topic, but it's one of the weaker movies I've seen this year actually. But you know, I think this was a good. We all brought up really good franchises or IPs to reboot. Feehan with Alien vs Predator, Gifford with Indiana Jones, myself with John Carter. If you guys, which one do you guys think should be rebooted? And if you want to add your own answer, please comment below. This has been a great show. It's been a lot of fun. I want to say
Yeah.
talking about it for the last like 50
Yeah,
minutes or
nice
so.
job, guys.
Really, 50 minutes?
Yeah, we've been talking
Wow.
for, it's probably, I'm going to cut it down a little bit, obviously, but, if you like this video, like, share, subscribe, check out our other videos. You can check out our Inside the Man Cave episode on Kong Skull Island. We should have a Moana video up in the next, day or so. And that's all I really have to say today, guys. Thank you so much for listening, and hopefully we'll check you guys out next week.